challenges that existed is resistance to change. Yeah, there was corruption, very widespread corruption, and that could also be one of the reasons for resistance to change, and sabotage and all this antagonism came from. But okay, that's only my perspective. What could be the cause of this resistance to change, Ambassador?
Okay, thank you. I also thank both the speakers for mentioning a lot of issues which was to be raised. The resistance for change you have already answered, because the TPLF group, few of them, not people misunderstand that Tigray people, they think everybody is a TPLF, but TPLF as few people who are doing a lot of criminal acts on behalf of the Tigray people. But Tigray people are Ethiopians, and they are like ourselves. They are suffering everything with us, and that's one of the mistakes. But those who have benefited from the previous regime due to financial issues, business, what have you, do not want the change, because though Ethiopian people were forgiving whatever is done and want to continue peacefully to bring the country forward in the reform. Because if you are not in a good condition in what you have done, if your hand is not clean, always you cannot feel good. That's why they continuously try to ignore the peace conditions. All the positive issues was given to them. As Vincent mentioned about PP Party, Prosperity Party, this was established with a majority understanding in the presence of TPLF that they formed. They want to dissolve the previous front and established the Prosperity Party, which is trying to lead the country with a great idea of Maddamer, which means to see things pragmatically and also try to move the country forward in a positive stance, trying to consider all possible things in the right way, not only going to left, right, or east or west, or south or north, but to see in a balanced way a lot of issues which can help the country in a very critical way. But these people, after the Prosperity Party was established, the difference between the Prosperity Party and the previous front is that the previous front, which the TPLF was dominantly leading, it was ignoring a large number of people from Ethiopia. For example, Somali, Benishangul, Afar, and others were not included. It was only few which was leading the country, and TPLF, which was not even considering 5% of the society of 110 million population, was leading throughout 27 years in Iron Fist, which is very dictator, and so many issues we have been explaining. But after this party was established, they rejected and they left out. They also resigned and went back to Tigray and start leading Tigray. But the government didn't do anything because it is their right not to join. It was not forceful to join because the front was joining together with peace and with understanding, with their own willingness. Later on, when this was established, they also called their people from the parliament and other high officials. They went back to Tigray and hide in Tigray and start doing a lot of criminal acts. That is the issue, but still the government was continuously working on the reform, focusing on developing the country. Projects management has been mentioned. You will not believe it. Like, for example, if we mention GERD, which is the Ethiopian Great Renaissance Dam, the Ethiopian people, even the poorest people who cannot eat 2 times a day, were contributing from their meager resource because they want to see the country to prosper and their life to be improved. This was contributed from no one from the international society has helped the Ethiopian government or Ethiopian people. They were paying from their own pockets. But this GERD was planned to be completed in 5 years, but it took them 10 years without doing anything, and the amount of money which was contributed were smuggled out of the country, which you cannot expect to be done. Not only that, sugar factories, a lot of mega projects were not done. All projects were left out simply on the air, and the money which was borrowed, which was given as a grant, was taken out of the country to their personal accounts outside. And resisting, accepting all this, but to your amazement, this government has done a great job. GERD is being done with the support of Ethiopian people again. We have filled the first filling, as you have seen, and it's continuously being done according to the schedule. all the sugar factories, roads which was stacked. A lot of projects which were stacked are now being performed. Not only that, you have heard about the Sugar project, the Toto project, Unity Park, what have you. And now, which we have 3 projects started in Gondar, Wenchi, and other places. And the Green Legacy, which we have planted 15 billion trees already, and we are going to do this year also. That is exemplary for the world. Even though we have been going into incredible challenge, which was heartbreaking and very discouraging, our government, the leadership, the people were not kneeling. The government and the people are working hard to take this country forward with patience, with a lot of tolerance. All this you can see about the reforms we are going on now. Even with this all problem with COVID, which tested the world, even the high powers, Ethiopia has shown about 6.1 economic growth, which is incredible. You cannot believe it. That's why the growth of Ethiopia, the opportunity of investment, still make Ethiopia the most preferred investment destination. Though TPLF tried to defame with false information, fake information, to destroy the name of the country, to destroy the fame of the image of our country. Even today, from Germany, Europe, other parts, investors are going to Ethiopia and investing. Tourists are still going, even at this time of COVID. Some people go for work, some investors go for investment. That's what makes me happy, that the country is on the right track. Those friends of Ethiopia are still supporting Ethiopia for election, for COVID, for humanitarian assistance, for reform preparation, for continuous, for reform continuation. You see the real friends of Ethiopia, countries, different friends of different nations are still helping Ethiopia. That's what makes us happy to see the progress, even having all this challenge of health, COVID, what have you, disinformation, and also real attack of our people, killing so many things, even having such problems without appreciating the peace condition which was done by Dr. Abiy Ahmed for the Horn. And what makes us happy today, even when we have to promote how Ethiopia is working, that Ethiopia, as mentioned, we have more than 40–50% youth population, which is a very competitive labor force, and we have a lot of resources, a lot of advantage. I don't want to waste your time counting this. We have it on the website of Ethiopian Investment Commission, where anybody would like to see and come as investment to Ethiopia. The country is flourishing. The country is going on the right track. Record. We have to promote our country, and people have to see what is there for the investors, what is there for those people who would like to come positively and work. But regarding this information, as Vincent mentioned, we ask our Western, Eastern, what have you, anybody who is disinformed or influenced with this disinformation or fake news, which is testing the world today, we really request any human being with a sound mind to come or send anybody they trust and go and see and understand Ethiopia clearly. We Ethiopians have great values to share to the world because of our togetherness, because of our self-confidence, because of a lot of issues that we give to the world, especially Ethiopia is contributing for the world peace incredibly. We are not only for ourselves, for our neighbors. You remember at the time of COVID, Ethiopian Airlines were delivering COVID protection assistance to African countries. It's not because we are the richest people, but we have a big heart. We were hosting more than 1 million refugees, even today, even in the future. We have big heart to accommodate human beings and respect human rights. That should be really clearly understood. Today, the world is telling us to open up. The government has opened unfiltered access, but no support is going to Ethiopia. We are asking our friends and supporters or allies or partners to go with their hand to help the needy people. What created by TPLF. TPLF started the war, and all this mess to the humanitarian assistance is created by TPLF, but the government is blamed. My cadres, more than 600 people were killed by them. Nobody mentioned. More than 2 years since the reformist government came, so many killings happened in the country by TPLF. Nobody mentions that. In Oromia, in Benishangul, in Amara, in Somali, so many people were killed by the manufacturing false arrangement of against Ethiopia, but the government was not supported by the Eastern or any others who are claiming about human rights. They should have blamed those who have done this wrong crime, but only government is blamed. We want a balanced view, a balanced understanding. We are not asking anyone to support Ethiopia blindly, but we want the world to come and see and judge the government, judge Ethiopia with genuine mind, with truth. That's what we are asking, to come and see our reality, see our truth, and support the country to move forward. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ambassador. Actually, you've mentioned these questions, these things which I was going to ask later. So anyhow, bear with me if I ask again. So is there anything that you could add on this, Dr. Tsegaye? On the resistance to change, and if that has anything to do with corruption, and if that has if we can count the TPLF's antagonism as a resistance of change, or
normally I have no comments to add. I remember a quote from Peter Drucker, a famous management professor. He said, "The greatest danger in times of turbulence is not the turbulence, it is to act with yesterday's logic." Which means when we build a new institutions and put the same logic as yesterday, then we have a problem. We have a problem when you put the same people that are not willing to change. And when we're coming back to change, what I said before, it is there is also a fear of to lose status, or a fear to lose a benefit. What Her Excellency Ambassador Mulu already said, and it is also when the position is given according to ethnicity and party affiliation rather than education and experience, that will bring up to also a big resistance to change. So that's the point, and it's a lack of, at the end you'll have a lack of tolerance, there is a lack of extensive skills, a lack of in the last 3 decades, you will see a lot of self-clonings, which means that resulted creativity, a lack of diversity in working teams. When you see only one ethnicity work in this group and the other ethnicity work in the other group, it is also scientifically proven that it doesn't bring much. So that is kind of resistance resulted through that what I mentioned. Also, Ambassador Mulu said also in the right way. It is I have nothing to add rather than what she said. Thank you.
Yeah, I must say that I have not much to add. I think there's two things maybe I would like to say something about. It's interesting to see how the future will go, also with regard on the coming election period. If the Tigrayan people are feeling being represented by the political parties who are in Tigray, and that also would count, I think, for the whole of Ethiopia, and which is in general and all over the world always the question for me when I read the news. If there's elections, are the people in the country feeling that they are represented by the parties that are there, which is just a general point. The second is there's a transition going on, and what I know from transitions in general, from a repressive system, which is very complex to explain, but I don't have to do that, to a situation where from one day to another, or in 3 months, there is an openness, there's a freedom of press, there's a freedom of, there's a privatization of, prospect of all sectors in the economy, and there's a lot of freedom. Yeah, that's fast, from one day to the other, and then after 3 months, after there was a regime change, or there was not a regime change, but there was a political change which resulted in a transition. I think it's important to know that a transition will not be over in 3 years. It will not be over maybe in 5 years, but it will take time. That's just a general thing.
Yeah, thank you, Vincent. And actually, this has been a very powerful and really informing question and answer session. And thank you very much for the elaborated explanation. As a next point to the points raised by Dr. Tsegaye, from economical point of view, it seems like there's a positive progress that is being, of course, implemented, and we see it, the whole world sees it. It's not something that can be denied. Ethiopia is in a path of prosperity, regardless of the challenges that are currently being experienced. And there's also more freedom of such companies, different kinds of business opportunities for the private sector. And as Ambassador Mulu has also informed us, foreign investors are also welcome. There is a better, so to say, investment opportunity in the country. But I also would like to ask, as Ethiopians, Ethiopian diasporas, for those points where you mentioned where there needs to be a better expert-based ways of project management, improved ways of working in different areas. Dr. Tsegaye, also as you're representing the Ethiopians and Ethiopian diaspora, how do you advise that the Ethiopian diaspora also gets involved and supports this process of accelerated and more expert-based prosperity, so to say, or different types of or areas of work? How shall we organize ourselves? How shall we also work with our ambassadors or embassies in general, diaspora departments, as well as how shall we work with Ethiopians back home to help in this process? Lastly, Vincent, I would like to ask you some things, because you mentioned how you, as a foreigner who actually doesn't speak fluent Amharic, I'm sure, nor Orominya, nor Tigrinya, you have informed us how you believe that the Ethiopian news is more accurate, is actually providing the accurate information, and how you rely more on that. But for us also as a constructive way, then how can we make the Ethiopian news reach the international community? Do you have any advice as to also how to make that international, or how to make it more accessible? I don't know, maybe a channel, or maybe more news also being given in English or other languages, if you have any suggestion to also support this, this process. And lastly, as you yourself have also experienced it and admitted the false information being spread by Western media or organizations running different type of, I think, agendas in general, would you say that they should then be held responsible for spreading such false information, defaming a country based on lies, and also, you know, making it have such consequences that are actually challenging the Ethiopian government and Ethiopians in moving forwards towards the path of prosperity? Thank you, Vincent.
So we have the accountability question that I will come to. First, I would like to say that yeah, there is enough English news. For example, you have BBC Africa, you have Al Jazeera, you have Borkana, you have Ethiopian Reporter, you have now you can name them, and they are all having the Amharic sections, or even other Ethiopian languages sections also in English. So I think yeah, to me it's a little bit incredible to see the I can only say it's biased type of news that I see in the West, and if they should have just read some Ethiopian reporters' news, or just call some diplomat for some information, or could you help me? I've my experience that if you reach out to some people, they are willing to give you information. For example, the professor who taught me and guided me as my tutor when I was a student, I just looked at his blog at the Africa Studies Center in Leiden, and there's a lot of information he is using, not only from Western news outlets, but also from Ethiopian, and they are in English. And even you can use Google Translate. So I don't know if I would like to give some advice, but I think I gave my $100 advice already, or my $100 million to the advice to the Western media is just now. Just go reach out and read and go on the internet and look at two sides of the story. If I could just give one fast example, yesterday I called the Dutch state news media. They made some comment. There's more. I did a lot more than that about this lack of information in Dutch media. But yesterday I called them and I got some email, and I wrote an email, high urgency, and I asked if they could please change the accusation that Eritrean and Ethiopian army are accused of war crimes. Well, that's incredible that they write it down, only that Ethiopian and Eritrean armies are accused of war crimes. Apart from what I think of that, it's not correct. You should always, and it's the African, the journalist for African affairs in Holland who's providing this information. So I told them it's not only them. There are also other parties. They always keep the balance with TPLF and the Ethiopian as two equal parties. But now suddenly only the Ethiopian army and Eritrea army are accused of war crimes. Apart from the whole deeper layer of problems underlying this, which is, for example, how did the problem grow, where they don't give any attention to only that, there was a conflict between TPLF and Ethiopia. Maybe Ethiopia is now not happy because TPLF is jealous, and then they started to fight, and now Ethiopia is committing war crimes they are accused of. Yeah, that's not news for me. That's yeah. So and it's important, I think, also that I changed it. So I had some access to, which was a good sign for me. I was still not happy with the article, but they said now also the TPLF and Amhara militias are accused of committing war crimes. Apart from what I think of who did what, because I think it's for me not clear to see anything or to say anything about. But I would give the TPLF the most doubt, I say, in this party. But that's just my personal opinion. That has nothing to do with what I think of the whole situation. And I think, yeah, there should be an accountability question. But it's also important to know how you execute this in action plan for the future. Because I think there's accountability, yes, but there's also need to know why it came to be that there's difference in point of view, which is so different. I think it has to do with a lot of things that I don't know about, but I guess it has